Sales calls for most people seem to be a massive energetic drain. It's just super inefficient because on the front end, the entrepreneur in question, whether they're taking the calls themselves or they have a team, right? Either way, they're trying to get as many calls booked as possible. Right? And at that point, you can do a little bit of qualification, but you really don't know what kind of people are going to show up on the other side. And that is if they show up.
What's going on, everybody? I'm joined today by some fucking loser from New York. He decided to come into the studio today. This dude is apparently really good at selling through chat or something like that. I don't believe this loser, but let's see if he knows what he's talking about. So, Ani, dude, go ahead. Fucking intro yourself to the audience, bro.
What's up? I mean, I didn't know I missed the Bostonian accent until...
Yeah.
I mean, we just don't get that in Austin, right?
Bro, not enough of it, man.
Not enough.
We need more ball busting in Austin. Bring ball busting to Austin.
There we go. We need that real Northeast energy that just cuts through all the niceties, right?
Maybe a little bit. Maybe we should... I think the Northeast energy can be very intense here. Remember the first time Christine and I came here? Not going to go into a whole story. Sorry, everybody. But people were talking to us at Terry Black's. Yeah. They turned around, they're like, hey, what's up, guys? And I looked at her, I'm like, these people weird? What's going on? And she was like, I think they're being nice. And I was like,
what the fuck is that?
No way, man. No way. And they just kept talking to us. I'm like, see ya, man. But yeah, man. So Ani is actually a very impressive New Yorker, very rare breed. Ani, I would love to hear just a bit about your experience. If you want to go ahead and give everybody an intro here about yourself, what you've accomplished in your business, what you've helped other business owners accomplish, and then anything else regarding your brilliant mindset brain and anything you want to shout out for yourself here. Yeah,
pleasure to be here. Pleasure to spend so much fun time with you in Japan.
Yep.
That was such a trip.
Great time.
So I run a company called Scale with Psychology, and over the years, I've coached 600 plus entrepreneurs, ranging from 6 to all the way up to like 10-figure businesses, and it's mainly been from the lens of how do we scale a business exponentially in the most efficient, profitable, lean way. And my ultimate North Star for life, and this is like taking me to a level of obsession I didn't think was possible, is how do we get paid to exist? To me, this is sort of one of those questions that'll take me a whole lifetime to figure out, which is really fun.
Yeah.
And more and more people who come to me, whether it's in the accelerator or, for more bespoke help, this really, really, really resonates, because one of my core theses is that effort in any way is not a sustainable strategy, because effort depletes us, right? We just cannot sustain it because it puts us in a negative energy balance. So the only sustainable strategy for a human being and in a business is play, because play actually gives us more energy than it takes. Play actually makes time multiply.
Yeah.
Right. And so most people, especially in business, we're like trying to chase time. There's this whole joke, like if I had just one more hour in a day, like I just need 26 hours to like get everything done. Yep. But what if we could orient from a paradigm where we have infinite time, where we actually lose track of time because we're having so much fun, and we're actually not in the process of running and scaling a business, doing anything that we otherwise wouldn't do. So everything is oriented around maximum resonance, maximum enjoyment, maximum flow. And there's no difference between the life that we would live, the purpose we would, seek to attain and embody in the course of running the business, and if we had, infinite money in the bank. Yeah.
So, and funny enough, I just realized the contrast between my intro and the energy of this is very, very hilarious. In terms of how we started this.
We can bring it back.
No. Yeah, let's hear a New York accent. No, I was just sitting there. I was like, wow, okay, that was a very powerful energy shift. So are you talking about pretty much removing the, I guess like the, not constraints, but the identity of yourself in which, hey, I'm stepping into my business right now.
Yeah.
And that means I'm going to be neglecting my health, my relationships, because I'm focused on the business. But now I'm going to be pivoting away from my business. I'm spending time with my family. So no business time, no this, which is, it's interesting because I have a rule that I usually follow when I feel like I'm like kind of losing a bit of myself is I call it the 100% rule, where I actually, whatever I'm doing, I need to give 100% of my energy towards. If I'm in my business, I need to give all my focus to my business. Everything else is cut out. When I'm with family, no business, no any other distractions. I feel like my life's pretty much just family and business and friends at this point. But so are you talking about just removing that and just being able to authentically flow through life and just also, like you said, get paid to just be in not be in abundance, but just be in genuine flow or authentic flow?
For sure. Like that's one of the core lenses of this idea, right? So most people, most entrepreneurs, they live what I call a fragmented life, right? There's a version of themselves that exists, you know, in running the business. And then there's another version of them that is in their relationship. There's another version that shows up to friends. When they go on vacation, they're a different person.
Yeah.
Right. And it's totally normal. Like it's normalized in work culture. Like people have a certain work persona, and then, you know, when they go out with their homies, it's like totally different.
Yeah.
And like, that's great. But I was struck by this question a long time ago. I was like, what would my life look like if I was fully integrated?
Was that a question you brought to yourself or someone brought to you?
No, I brought to myself because, you know, I grew up with a lot of trauma, and I realized in my early 20s that I had the almost natural survival skill of being a social chameleon. And I had, you know, living in New York, you know, right? Like you meet so many different kinds of people, right? And so many different interests and like people who are just fundamentally so varied.
Yeah.
And I had all of these different social groups. And I saw myself, I was different in each one. And on one hand, that's a really cool skill, right? Super adaptable. I can meet people exactly where they are. But it made me wonder, like, who am I? Right? Like, who is the me in this, and what is the constant? And then I started noticing that show up in, you know, all other parts of life. So one of my theories on, you know, what allows us to be in flow and what allows us to be truly fulfilled and actually achieve our, you know, fullest potential is the level of integration in our system, right? And integration shows up in lots of different ways. So think about the word alignment, right? Everyone's obsessed with alignment. But what does alignment mean?
3 times a day.
Right.
Yeah.
So what does alignment mean? It means that all of our subparts are oriented and pointed in the same direction.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Right? Imagine a crew boat on the Charles River.
That was a nice little
right?
little Boston.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Snuck that in. So imagine if like there's a dozen Harvard kids like rowing.
You got me now, man. I'm locked.
I'm getting you worked up.
Picture this.
Yeah.
Man. Picture this.
But imagine like they're all rowing in different directions.
Yeah.
Right? That boat would not move cohesively, efficiently towards one vision, one destination. It's like that in business. It's like that for us as individuals. And, you know, you were talking to Kyle a little while ago. Yeah. And why do people self-sabotage with health? Why do people do stuff that's against their best interests in business? It's because we have parts that were formed at different times in our life as a result of different experiences that have different agendas. They're trying to make different things happen. They're operating based on different values.
But they're not associating it with the same agenda.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's enormously inefficient, right? Because like take someone wanting to go to bed early because when they get great sleep, the next day they're dialed in and they can crush 4 hours of work, and in that 4 hours they get more done than they would in like 12 hours, right? It would make perfect sense. But now imagine that person had a father who was super critical and super controlling, and this person has such a deep resistance for externally imposed order and structure that now as an adult, what they're doing is they're rebelling against their own authority. I'm talking about someone else. I'm not talking about myself at all.
Oh,
just so you know, this is a totally hypothetical example.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I'm talking about a friend.
No, for sure, man. Yeah, you prefaced me beforehand. None of this is me about you.
Yeah.
It's
definitely not about me.
No, I hear you. No, for sure.
So like, you know, we grow up to be the solutions to, you know, the problems that we faced as kids.
Trying to create the stability trying to create stability in the instability that we previously were trying to battle out of.
Exactly. So integration is sort of one lens we can look at, right? In this whole like idea of like, what does it mean to get paid to exist, right? Because let's look at the contrast, right? Most entrepreneurs, they build a business that requires them to perform. They play a character on the internet.
Yeah.
Right? Like you see the kids flexing with their Lambos and, you know.
Or me being an idiot on my podcast or.
I think that's actually super authentic.
Thank you.
Right? I think you.
Me being an idiot is authentic is what you do.
I mean,
no, I'm just kidding.
You always, to me, feel very authentic.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
And authentic people are very attractive because it's very easy to be around them.
Yeah.
Right? Inauthenticity is actually an energetically expensive function. Because when you're around someone who's inauthentic, you can't really relax.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm just kind of putting that in perspective. I mean, there's so many times, and I even told Christine this, and I love my friends now in Austin, but even when I was first here, I feel like every dinner I went to, every networking event, even just hanging out with somebody, it's like I showed up as like internet, like, you know, inauthentic. Now, like the version of Know you're meeting now is completely different a year and a half ago. Like I was very much like, the way I spoke was very like, I still speak in a way that I want people to digest what I'm saying well. Right. So I'll use fluctuations and stuff like that. But yeah, like it was very much like every dinner there was an agenda, right? And there was a, hey, like I need to chameleonize myself.
Right.
And it was holding back a lot, like this authentic version of me that is funny, goofy, and all these things. I wouldn't even, people in Austin even like to bust people's balls until like about a year ago, because I was like, that side comes out, like I associated it with being back in Boston, being back with my friends, having fun. And I was like, oh, but that version of Noah was very destructive, or not destructive, but was self-sabotaging in these ways, didn't take things seriously, didn't know how to hold down a serious conversation and all these things. So I looked at it as like, if I'm that version of Noah, it's dangerous. Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting.
But when you are that version of Noah now, it's a signal that you're at ease.
Yep.
Because to be authentic, we have to be at ease.
Yeah.
Right? Because inauthenticity is a symptom of fundamentally a system being not at ease.
Yeah.
And when one person is not at ease, it puts everyone else around them not at ease.
Yep.
So most people, they build a business that requires them to play a character. Most people build a business that requires them to be someone that they're not, or do things they don't want to do.
Yeah.
Right? Because we have all of this programming around what it means to be an entrepreneur. We have all this programming around what it means to be successful. Like you need to have at least one ad where the creative is a picture of you in a private jet. Yep. You need to be,
or the rented ones,
right? Or the rented, and there's all of this baggage, right? So most human desire is mimetic, as in humans learn fundamentally through mimicry. So even as babies, the way we learn, how to walk and language and all that stuff, we have these mirror neurons that are designed to mimic mom and dad. So fundamentally, how we learn about business and money and, worth and all of this stuff is just by mimicking. Now in the age of social media, when everyone's flexing, everyone's building these very inauthentic businesses, what happens is that it just propagates that inauthenticity because everyone's trying to replicate success, especially in the high ticket space.
Yeah.
It's basically one person learns a model or a process, and then they teach it to 10 people, and those 10 people teach it to 10 more people.
Yeah.
Right? And anything that happens, it just cascades through the market at warp speed.
Yeah. And it's almost like you almost don't fit into the market if you're not falling into whatever the silo is that one expert that helped X amount of people to get Y result to become Z person or became Z person in the process of it. It's like you immediately no longer fit the mold and you almost feel like a black sheep being different.
But that is actually what makes someone valuable in this age. Because there was a time when all you needed was to have an offer, right?
Yeah.
Because ad cost was so cheap, you could basically run a VSL funnel and people had no idea what the fuck
Doesn't matter.
it was.
People had a pulse at a credit card. They were
Right.
buying whatever. Yeah.
And they'll get on the phone, total stranger, you swipe 5K, 10K, 15K, and it was like just easy.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's like, okay, you need a good offer because now there's more competition in the space.
Yep.
Now we've been in the age of the brand, right? Where there's 100 people in every space selling the same outcomes, right?
Literally same exact ads.
Same mechanism. So there was also the age of the mechanism where people like,
mechanism,
right?
USPs, yeah.
And then there was the brand. It's like, oh, who's got the bigger brand, right? Because that accords a certain level of trust or prestige. I think we're in the place where we're moving into the age of authenticity.
Yeah.
And authenticity can be felt, right? And the thing with authenticity is that when someone's authentic, the people who are looking at that person, they feel more at ease. It's felt by the body.
Yeah.
Right? And bodies never lie.
Yep.
Right? Bodies are the ultimate lie detector.
For sure, yeah. And I've even noticed that too. And more recently, it's like I've been paying more attention to my, what's the term I'm trying to think of? So when you feel like a physical symptom in your body, what's the term for that? It's I don't know, I'm blanking on it, but it's like, oh, like when this thing happens, I feel my chest tighten a little bit, or the back of my throat like starts like, if I get like really anxious about something, or if I feel fear, like the back of my throat starts like itching. Yeah, it's like these small little, I forget what those are called, but physiological symptoms or whatever.
Totally.
Like, yeah. So, and I've noticed that too, is as time goes on, like your body is always the first thing to usually pick up on these things.
So one of my theses is that this whole game of entrepreneurship is about energy, right? When you think about it, we are expending energy to receive energy.
Yeah.
Right? We expend energy in terms of like writing sales letters and VSLs and being on Zoom calls and doing delivery and creating templates and all this stuff, managing a team, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
We receive energy in the form of money, goodwill, attention, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm obsessed with maximizing the efficiency of this energetic transaction, right? Because if we look at business through the lens of the evolutionary algorithm, like life basically functions on the basis of energy balance. So for any organism and species to survive, it must be able to, expend less energy than it's able to receive from its environment.
Yeah.
Right? If there's an animal that literally cannot get its food and its body is using up more resources than the energy it's getting from the food that it's able to find, whether it's in plant form or animal form, it's going to die.
Yeah.
And that species is going to go extinct. And so what we're trying to do as entrepreneurs is we're trying to get the highest ROI for the energy that we're expending.
Yeah.
So I think of this whole game less in terms of money, but more from the lens of energy. Yeah. And when we see it from the lens of energy, it's like, okay, how do I maximize this mathematical equation where I'm putting in certain inputs in the form of energy and I'm getting certain inputs back in the form of energy.
Yeah.
So if I can accumulate more excess energy every quarter, every month, every year, right? That we can think of that as, the profit that the business makes.
It has a compounding effect too.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so how does this all play in? Because like a big thing that you help a lot of people with is like selling through chat, right? And to me, I'm like, that concept, I'm like, no, you can't do that, man. Unless you're selling like super low ticket, you need a sales team, you need this, you need this. Like, and it sounds like it sounds like you're almost using this as a proof mechanism to show that like, hey, the more authentically aligned you are, you don't even need all these other mechanisms of selling through, right? So like, how does that all play in? And like, I guess what is your like process of like selling somebody through chat for something, and like how does that align with what you're saying now?
Yeah. So Beautiful question. So what, and this will really collect the theoretical to the tangible.
Yeah, yeah.
So one of the things, and I mean, I've sold everything from like $20,000 deals to $250,000 deals on sales calls.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I actually really enjoy the process of selling.
Me too.
And I'm really good at it.
I could tell.
And so, you know, I saw this very interesting thing where I was like, sales calls for most people seem to be a massive energetic drain. It's just super inefficient because on the front end, the entrepreneur in question, whether they're taking the calls themselves or they have a team, right? Either way, they're trying to get as many calls booked as possible.
Yeah.
Right. And at that point, you can do a little bit of qualification, but you really don't know what kind of people are going to show up on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And that is if they show up.
Yeah.
Right. So parallel to this, over time, the cost to get someone on the phone is increasing exponentially.
Yeah.
Right. There was a 4-year period where if you advertise on Facebook and you run the standard book a call funnel, it was a 600% increase in how much it costs to get a person on a call.
Yeah.
Right. When you factor in the cost to get a call booked, then the number of people are going to who's going to show up, because a bunch of people just wouldn't show up.
Yeah.
Which drives the cost up for the people who do show up. And then when you actually factor in commissions and the people who actually buy, I mean, it ends up being quite expensive to get a client, which also means that we have to charge a lot more to make the math work.
Yeah.
Right. Because if it costs $2,000 to get a client.
Yeah. If your CAC is 2 and you're selling a $3K product, like we've actually literally raised prices on our products. It's like literally as marketing gets more expensive, and we're really good and efficient with marketing costs. It still just gets more expensive because more people are competing for the same keywords. People are competing for the same like audiences, same traffic. So like you naturally have to raise your prices, and then inflation and all these other things too just naturally drives up all your prices, literally just to sell the same thing and stay competitive and stay in business.
And that's gonna only keep going, right?
Yeah.
Like the cost of advertising is only gonna keep increasing.
Yeah.
Right? Now, by the way, the high ticket space is really weird. Because if you look at all other businesses, normal businesses, every business is actually trying to lower their prices.
Yeah.
Right? Because
commoditize and
they want to make their products more accessible, because if they can increase the adoption of their product in a market, they essentially make more money.
It's interesting too, because when you think about it, the high ticket space, the whole idea of it is to be the premium solution. Right. Like nobody's selling a high ticket product.
Right.
So yeah, it's funny. It's like, you know, what makes me more premium? How can I justify a higher price point? How can I don't know, like invest more in my fulfillment to get a better transformation, which is also a good thing too, which I do like about the space is like people, you know, the scammers get weeded out relatively quick. Unfortunately, usually after they make a lot of money, but a lot of them get cracked down by the FTC, which is also very nice. So thank you FTC for your hard work and getting the scammers out of here. But so I mean, sorry, I'll let you continue going on that thought process.
So that's one, right? We have to, in the high ticket space, people have to keep raising their prices because their CAC is going up over time. And it's becoming more and more expensive to acquire a client. Now, the other thing is that as this is happening, right? As price goes up, what's happening is that the amount of pressure on that call is going up.
Yeah.
Because now there's a near stranger who's relatively new to the person, right? Or to the brand. And we're trying to extract 5K, 10K, 15K, 20K out of them in a 45-minute conversation. Maybe there's a follow-up call, maybe there's a follow-up process, but it's still an artificial experience.
Yeah.
Right? Because imagine you just meet someone accosts you on the street. They have like a really short conversation. They're like, okay, pay me 10 grand and I'll give you this. So the conversation becomes very pressurized.
Yeah.
right? It's just not organic. It wouldn't happen in nature.
We're also in a huge, we call it internally on our team, is we're in a trust recession now in the high ticket space, right? Like trust and authenticity. That's where I think kind of it's all going, looping back to authenticity is really important, because I mean, we've sent like crazy middle of funnel nurture content, all this stuff, but like and one thing we noticed is people who we've worked with who have like maybe less of a following, but really authentic content, versus people who maybe have like 15,000 followers, 20,000 followers, and they have like the same kind of copy and paste reel, which I mean, we've all done. I've done those at a time too. Yeah. Those actually were not generating a lot of trust and authenticity.
So totally true. Yeah. Right. Now in that environment, it's actually much harder to extract large amounts of money from pretty much a stranger in a really short amount of time.
Yeah.
Right. And what that typically does, even if someone succeeds in doing that, is that it puts a lot of pressure once they sign on as a client. The expectations are really high, which means there's a lot of pressure. Yeah. The third thing is that sales calls have a natural constraint, right? There's only so many calls we can take. So if the founder is the one, in this case, the coach, consultant, service provider, whoever is taking the calls themselves, I mean, beyond 20 calls a week, like it's just not fun. And I'm being generous.
To take the calls.
Yeah. Like if you're the one taking the calls.
That's very generous. I don't know any sales rep that takes less than 25 calls.
Right. And so, you know, most people, like even if they're fully booked out, like, it is like 25, 30 calls.
Yeah. Depending on show rates and all that too. But
it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And if you have a team you're delegating that to, sure, it may free up the person, but you take commissions, 20%, setters, closers, hiring, firing, team management, reviewing sales calls.
Yeah.
Like that is generally going to be at least 15 hours a week.
Oh, yeah.
Right? To run a sales team effectively.
We run like multiple sales teams right now, so I know exactly. Yeah.
So for most people, it creates a certain constraint because only the people who are getting on a sales call are being made the offer. Mm-hmm. So the offer is actually, and you know, a simple metric for how much money a business generates is we can look at the offers that are made. So if someone wants to make more money, just make more offers.
Yeah.
If you can only make offers on sales calls, there's a natural ceiling on how many offers you can make. Mm. And if you get someone on a sales call, typically they're not going to get on a sales call with you again.
Yeah.
Right? So we have one shot. And so this is a pretty high pressure, inorganic, synthetic, buy or die approach to client acquisition.
So I guess to challenge this a little bit, because I'm curious to hear what your perspective is on this. I mean, like, for example, some people like, and for sure there's the cost of commissions and all these other things too. And I see where you're going with your model. I could see how this could be efficient too. When it comes to like, let's say like high volume sales or like, you know, having a sales team, some people feel like super empowered being on sales calls. Like, yes, it's a lot of energy. It can be draining, but it's like, I feel alive when I'm on this. Like I talked to a rep the other day and I literally told him like, you need to take a week off, dude. You are super burnt out. I run a free mastermind every week for people who are getting into the space and sales reps and stuff. And I was like, dude, you need like to take a week off. And he's like, dude, but I love it. I love being on these calls. I'm enjoying it. I'm like, right, dude. And you're also coming across like a crackhead right now. And your energy is completely off. Like take a few days to just decompress and then get back into the calendars. Not one of our sales reps, somebody I'm mentoring, but so I guess like, you know, and there's obviously like the trade-off of that too. However, with the higher price, it's roughly the same margin. Some teams, like they find it more scalable, or I guess, because I mean, I guess it wouldn't be as scalable in terms of like if you can just sell from chat, but you know, like there is the argument of you could just bring in more people, do that, which again creates a lot more energy in the business.
And that, so that you hit the nail on the head, right? Mm-hmm. That's the $1 million point. Yeah. So sales calls are absolutely the fastest way with the highest certainty to acquire a client, right? Nothing will ever beat getting on the phone with the prospect or on Zoom, talking through their objections, looking through their situation. I mean, it's the fastest way to build trust.
Yeah.
In my model, we are intentionally sacrificing some of the speed in the short term for sustainability in the long term. And the question is, and this is in line with what you were saying, what's the business you want to build? Do you want a business with a large team, with high overhead, right? Generally much higher operating costs, where margins are lower, a lot more moving parts. You're having to, hire, fire, lead, manage, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Or do you want the leanest possible business that does not involve setters, closers, a whole infrastructure that's designed to compensate for the fact that the behavior is very inorganic, right? Like if you imagine you're single and you're out in Boston, and
Dude, you're like you fuel me today, man.
you just had a few beers with the boys.
Go on.
Right? You walk outside the bar, and you have to convince a woman that you find attractive on the street within 5 seconds to go home with you. Like, how would you feel about the prospect of that conversation?
With my fiance literally being in the other room, I'm going to say, I'm going to pass on. I might get where you're going with that.
It'd be kind of nerve wracking, right? Because it's a lot of pressure.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. In that sense, yeah, it'd be a lot of pressure.
It's not normal human behavior.
Yeah.
Right. But if I give you like 5 months, you'd probably be a lot more relaxed, a lot more at ease. You'd be a lot more yourself if you go up to this person. And so there is a way, if we are looking for simplicity, for some people, they just want to fucking pour gas on the fire.
Yeah.
They want setters, closers. They want a team that does follow-ups. They want to have CSMs. They want to build a big infrastructure.
Yeah.
Right? And their priority is, I'm going to feed this ads and traffic, and I'm going to make this as big as I can.
Do you run ads when you sell by chat?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can. I'll go over all of
I'm
that.
Super curious on how you break that down.
But what I realized was that I don't want to manage a team. I've managed teams before.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. I don't want to have any employees, right? And my sort of obsession is how minimalist can we make an expertise-based business? How much more profitable can we make it? And how much more fun can we make it? And how low can the pressure be? Like, can we almost eliminate all pressure? And what I realized is that pressure is the enemy of fun. And if there's no pressure, then I'm having a lot more fun. If I have a relatively empty calendar where most of the work, like when we were in Japan, that whole month, we were traveling.
Yeah.
I put the business on maintenance mode, and I was working 5 hours a week. And that was just for delivery to existing clients. I wasn't doing anything to grow the business. And it was great. We're going to Europe for the summer. We're spending 3 months in Europe.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
And my constraint for Europe is like 10 to 15 hours a week. I'm willing, I'm totally down to work more than in Asia. But, I also want to have fun and, enjoy the piazzas and the cappuccinos and
you better, my friend.
The clean crystal blue waters of Sardinia.
Yep.
And so this is a model that's designed for life. It's not designed for business maximalists. It's designed for business minimalists who want a business that allows them to make the impact that they want. It allows them to be exactly who they are. Actually, them being authentic becomes a competitive advantage because that's the only differentiation left.
Yeah.
Right? When everyone's selling the same outcome, everyone's selling the same offer, everyone's got the same guarantees and like same ads, same copy. And it allows us to build a business based on resonance. And selling based on resonance feels completely different than selling with brute force.
Yeah. And so how do you, because there's a level of having staying authentic through this process and having the authenticity sell.
Yep.
There's also how do you, build how do you build the sales system to be able to not just be authentic, but also display the mechanism in a transformative way?
Yeah.
And also do that because the biggest thing that like when I said earlier, we're in like a trust recession, right? It's if people aren't talking to the entrepreneur, if people are not, if they don't have a bunch of nurture content they can potentially go through in order to do this, like how are you actually building that while running? Because with ads, you're running to cold traffic, right? How are you getting these cold people to feel that authenticity, trust you, believe in you? Maybe even if you don't have a large brand or these different things, and still end up selling them without even having to get on a sales call. And what are the other question before I forget? It's like, what are the prices that you're even selling things at? Like, what's like the max price that you're seeing people can even sell these things for?
Yeah, so I'll just give you the example in my business.
Sure.
And I'll just walk through the whole thing if it's helpful.
Yeah.
Because everything I teach, I'm actually doing, right? So it's my business is basically a sandbox.
Yeah.
So I test things and then I open source it to my clients.
Yeah.
So the accelerator is, if someone wants to join and they can pay weekly, so it's $300 a week, which ends up being $15,600 a year, or they can pay in full for the year and it's $12K, and they save $3,600. By the way, this is one of the tactics we use to eliminate sales calls, because if you want to ask someone for 15 grand, having just met, close rate's going to be,
So it's like selling a subscription with the upfront yearly.
Right. But there's lots of opportunities for someone to upgrade and pay in full once they start, because trust before the transaction is relatively low.
Yeah.
But very soon after the transaction, when, my first touch point with someone, like in a live conversation, is after they buy.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I'm onboarding someone, that's when, there's this like, oh, okay, like this person gets me. I see this person, this is a real thing, which is pretty, everyone who's coming in cold, because all of this is happening with stone cold traffic. So my primary funnel, I call this an automated customer engine. It runs to cold traffic. It shares a very authentic, principle, value, and personality driven angle. I mean, so that's the ad.
You lead with the authenticity, not the unique mechanism.
100%.
Okay,
so
interesting. Yeah.
With the vision. So the first, at the ad level, it speaks to the vision, right? And preferences. So in my case, I talk about, I don't want to manage a big team. I don't want a calendar packed with calls. I don't want, only 40% or 30% profit because my expenses are so high. I don't want to start from zero every month. Right.
So instead of calling out saying like, hey, are you this person? It's, hey, I'm going to speak as if I'm already you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because in this model, the best thing to sell is meta, right? In my case, everything is meta because what I'm selling is what I'm actually doing.
Yeah.
So I don't ever create marketing content because my marketing comes from my delivery. That's one of the reasons why it's so efficient, that everything I post on YouTube, for example, it comes from what I'm delivering to clients.
So when you say that, do you mean like you're posting like your course modules or stuff like that?
I'm posting clips from the accelerator. My emails are referencing stuff that's happening in the accelerator. When I enroll people into an intake via email, I'm talking about the ideas that I share in the accelerator and showcase results of clients in the accelerator to sell the accelerator, right?
Yeah.
So, and even in the automated customer engine, I'm basically showcasing what I'm doing in the accelerator to invite people who want to apply that model customized to their needs by joining the accelerator. So the whole thing is meta. So we are signaling to the people, and that's why I said this is based on authenticity and resonance.
Yeah.
We're signaling to the market and saying boldly, almost like a bat signal, this is who I am. This is what I care about. This is what I believe.
And this is me actually doing the thing that you're going to be paying for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which, so if it's a health offer, right? It's all those things in relation to health. If it's something in the relationship space, same thing.
Yeah.
And that's what allows someone to be like, oh, interesting. Like, let me check this out. So they click on the ad, very simple opt-in page where I'm showing for free, a 20-minute walkthrough of the model. And the property is called Scale Without Sales Calls because I'm meeting people in the pain that they're in that moment. And it's primarily for people who are using sales calls to acquire clients. It's either onerous, right? Because no one wants to be on a bunch of calls.
Yeah.
Or they have a team and it's costing them too much and their margins are shit and they're tired of not making profit. Or they scaled it up and they're like, I fucking hate my life, right? I want something much chiller, much easier.
A lot of times that's when people shut down too.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of those people too.
Like I shut down this offer because it was making me too much money, but it's too much of a headache.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then they watch the video and then I make them an offer and they can buy $100 training. So it's essentially a self-liquidating offer. But again, the video there is talking all about, and you can funnel hack me, just go to scalewithoutsalescalls.com.
And then also while you're there, just straight up sign up.
Yeah, which is the best part about a meta business, right?
Yeah.
Because when someone's funnel hacking me, they're consuming my mechanism.
Yeah. Wait, so when you say meta, are you referring to like Facebook and Instagram meta?
No,
or like
great
this
question.
Is like this is the meta kind of.
So the meta here is that I build businesses that are recursive, as in I grow the thing by doing the thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I attract people
so you're
with
saying
the thing that they would buy.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So everything is self-referencing.
Gotcha. Okay. So when you said meta a few times, I'm like, is he saying like this is the meta, or is he talking about running Facebook?
So as an example,
yeah.
this funnel, right, that starts at scalewithoutsalescalls.com. When someone comes into it and they're watching the video, they're in the thing that they're there to learn about.
Yeah. They're already in it. They're experiencing it.
They're experiencing it.
Yeah.
So it's a very different way to relate versus me like saying like theoretically like here's a thing.
Yeah, and the thing is too, I mean, like the principle, like even as you're saying this, I'm like, I would love to, because I mean, we and like you said too, like it depends the type of business that you're trying to grow. We very much love ramping up like coaching offers.
Right.
We genuinely love sales management, building out sales teams, writing copy, building funnels. Like we actually have fun with that.
Yeah.
But all the same principles apply to even that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it's all based on first principles, right?
Yeah.
It's like the fundamentals of persuasion, marketing, engineering a transaction. It's always the same.
Yeah.
It's been the same for thousands of years. Like nothing is new in marketing. Right? Yeah. In a way, because nothing is new in human behavior.
Yeah, it's just new mechanisms, but
exactly.
the fundamentals are all the same.
Exactly. Yeah. So I prefer to build on fundamentals that are based on, principles of human behavior that are never going to change versus tactics. So in this case, they're coming in to learn about the thing that they're in, right? And so they go through this thing, the right people, they buy the offer. So the offer converts about 6.5%. So 6.5% of people who opt in to watch the video, they buy the $100 offer.
Okay, yeah, that's really solid. Yeah.
And then
usually it's like a 1 to 3%.
Right, and then there's a bump, and I'll explain like the core principle why the conversion rates are so high.
Yeah.
On the bump, the conversion rate's about 80%. Right.
So I was gonna say, right now what you're describing is just like a low ticket self-liquidating offer, but it's like but with an 80% bump to the high ticket is like that's insane. That's the
truth, the bump is another product, is another training.
Okay.
So until now they still haven't come into the high ticket.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So they get to the next page, right? And they're like, okay, your products are on the way, and they go in, they watch the trainings, and then I think it's up to 30 days now. 30 days of email nurture begins. And on emails, I'm basically because this is resonance-based marketing and resonance-based scaling, it's less about all the conventional things. I'm very intentionally sharing, very authentically all the unique, weird, quirky, interesting, different, authentic ways that I'm approaching business.
Yeah.
Right.
And is the goal for that though is to have people who are similar to you resonate with that, or is it
Correct.
more to just so it's like and there's obviously the element of like well he's just super authentic, but there's people I'm like that person's super authentic, but like I don't resonate with them. So
exactly.
Okay.
So there's different levels of resonance. So that you can resonate with a person, right? Then you can resonate with a mechanism, and then you can resonate with a model. So in this case, when someone resonates, it's like, okay, I like this person. Like I like the energy that I'm getting off. This mechanism makes sense. like because the mechanism I cover in the video as well, and then I go into depth over email, right? Oh, wow, this mechanism makes sense and it solves the problems that I have. It gives me advantages that I was looking for. It brings me closer to the solution that I want to get to. And then the model, because I'm teaching this whole model of, and this is just one small aspect of the whole thing, but it's one of those things that people care about a lot. Like, oh, this model makes sense. Like, I want a really minimal model. I want 90% plus profit margins.
It's even like we were talking with like Eli, second podcast in a row, shout out to Eli, travel guy. Even he said too, and I remember he was like, this might sound kind of contradictory to everybody here, but like, I don't want to build a crazy big sales team. I'm going to build my business in a way that has good margins.
Totally.
It's not about just like high revenue numbers. It's about profitability and like actually enjoying what I'm doing.
Totally.
And stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Eli's been in the accelerator from like literally day one. And it's so cool because
so he's a client of yours. Okay. This all makes sense. Yeah.
It's crazy because he was already running a 7-figure business.
Yeah.
Right. So like, it was such a fun, it's like, okay, how do we take this business? How do we make this way more efficient, way simpler, way more fun? Can we shrink the team like to what's actually needed? Can we sell in a way that doesn't require us to like give up, massive amounts of cash?
Yeah. So a question on this, and I think this is gonna be really helpful because, for example, like let's say I didn't have like a big audience, right? Like let's say I'm just trying to, build this out for the first time. Like the first thing I have in my mind is like, okay, well, like, like people see me, it's like, especially in a trust recession, he seems genuine, but how do I know that he's legit? How do I know this works? Like, do you need to come in with a large list of like, what are some of the requirements to even do this? Like, what are some like the prerequisites? Like, you need to at least have some organic content. You need to have X, Y, Z. Like, what would be the prerequisites to do this successfully?
A little bit of organic content doesn't hurt, like it helps if someone looks the person up and it's not completely blank.
Yeah.
So, always that helps, especially these days, because even when you get an ad now, like, I don't know about you, but I'll click the profile, like, see who is this person.
Yeah.
So that's always a leg up. But this model is designed to pretty much start from scratch. And of course, the more assets you have online, the more firepower you have and the faster you can scale. So like, people, when they come to me and they have like a list of like 10,000 people and we create what I call a dynamic offer, we launch it to their existing list and they add like 20, 30K in profit, monthly recurring, like in the first like 3 weeks. It's like, oh shit. Now that's obviously not going to happen with someone who doesn't have a,
pre-existing offer.
Exactly.
Base,
But the reason why this works well is because the initial sort of funnel that's running the cold traffic, that is doing all the trust building necessary to sell a $10 to $100 product, because that's all we're trying to do. That product, that first transaction is going to do the heavy lifting of building the trust for what I call the core offer.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you see high take rates though on that first offer? Because like another big thing, especially with self-liquidating offers, most people buy stuff. Like I bought like a $500 course, I think 2 months ago. I just straight up never touched it. And I get their texts and their emails like, go through the course. I'm like, oh, that's right, I meant to do that. And I just don't touch it.
A portion of the market will always never touch it. I mean, I personally I spend so much fucking money on courses, and a lot of them I don't even log in.
Yeah.
Right. I mean I want to, I truly do. But like, I just sort of switched out the value equation on that. But I have people who buy that $100 thing, and then I get an email a month later being like, hey, just thought I'd shoot you a note. I implemented the thing and I added 18K in MRR with that offer. Thanks. Never talk to this person. And I get a few of those, every few months.
Yeah.
Right. So there's people who are just silent killers. They need like, oh, okay, I see how this works. They'll take what I give them, implement, and just be flying. There'll be people who be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, this totally shifted how I see business. I totally see a better way and a better model for me to scale. 6 months later, nothing's changed.
Do you feel like these are typically just like super high intent buyers? Or they come in, they're like, I need
Yes.
this. Because like, for example, like my business partner, Bargov, right? Like,
Yeah.
if, like he'll like every once in a while, he'll just buy like a course on something. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's an interesting strategy. I haven't seen that. He buys it, goes through it that same afternoon, then just already implements it into the
Right.
business. Like,
Right.
oh, that was great. That worked out well.
Right.
So do you find this really only works with like high resonating, high intent buyers?
So yes, and so about 5 to 7% of people are like now buyers who come in. These people are problem aware, opportunity aware, solution aware. They've tried a bunch of things, right? They're pretty sophisticated,
Yeah.
and they know what they want, and they know when they see it, right? And like they're the ones who will go through my stuff, send me like a long email, because through the emails I'm building up to an invitation into the accelerator.
Sure.
They're like, I'm in, here's my whole situation, here's what I love, here's what I'd like help with. When do we get started? I get a bunch of those.
Okay.
Then I get
that's where the conversion actually happens, is usually through email.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the rest, there's another like 10% that convert over the first 90 days. And this model really works well when someone's sending at least like 3 to 5 emails a week, because email is the primary channel where we're converting. If someone's doing YouTube, plug videos into the emails. So when there's more assets available, it adds gasoline to make the whole thing grow faster.
Yeah.
But when someone's starting from scratch and they don't have a lot of assets, it still works because we're using the transaction and the value that the product is going to offer them to
As a
build the
trust
trust.
mechanism.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And then
Yes.
over email, people keep getting emails and that relationship keeps getting built. And here's the kicker. The emails are not to nurture. The emails are to make offers, right? Primarily.
Yeah. So your email deliverability must be insane.
Dude, I make money every time I send emails.
Yeah.
And that's that was an unexpected benefit, because like I wasn't in the habit of sending a lot of emails.
Yeah.
And then once I got in the mode, and I have a special sort of structure that I came up with on how to like teach how to do emails. When I write, I just fucking write.
Yeah.
And it's usually some sort of insight. It's usually some
Value-based.
sometimes it's like a personal story. Sometimes but usually there's some core perspective that, I share. And then almost every email has an offer, because fundamentally people buy when they're ready.
Yeah.
So going back to our what's organic behavior in terms of sales and what's not, if someone just meets you and they try to extract 10 grand out of you within 5 minutes, you're going to resist, right?
Yeah.
Because someone's trying to take something from you. So that force is going to have a counterforce.
Yeah.
What we do is we completely collapse all of that bullshit. We let people buy when they're ready. And here's the kicker. If they pay in full for the year, of course, they've paid in full for the year, they're fully committed. If they pay weekly, right, they can leave when they want. So I don't try to keep anyone against their will. So this whole model is based on maximizing choice. And here's the kicker, because I realized that unless every party in the transaction feels full choice, freedom, and sovereignty, no party in the transaction will feel choice, freedom, sovereignty. And I built this whole model around me feeling maximally free, right? Because I want to go to Japan. I want to spend...
Business is flowing into you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I'm not convincing anyone. I'm not forcing anyone. I'm not pushing anyone. I'm not saving anyone.
It's interesting because we do this. I mean, for our agency, we have we run Darn For You marketing and sales teams, and every client we don't get it through paid ads. We don't get it through outbound. We get it through being in a room, being at an event, talking to people, meeting people.
Right.
And so for us, the thing that we do is when we meet people, it's very much like our sales calls, we literally just call them goodwill calls. Because we get on a call with somebody, like, let's say you're like, hey man, my marketing's all like janked up. I'll be like, dude, let's get on a call. You meet Bargov. You gotta what's diagnosis, or your sales team is, not you specifically, because you don't have a sales team, and we just literally like, hey, here's the exact solution that we would do to fix this. Here's all the tools, resources. We'll do an audit. We'll break everything down. And then people are usually like, okay, I mean, you guys obviously know what you're talking about. You guys want to do this for us. So we're like, And then from there, then we start the due diligence, and
Right.
then we actually audit and see, is this someone that we actually want to work with? But our sales process, it's like once we do an audit and the person's an aligned fit, it's almost like a 95. It's like I think we have like probably a 90% close rate on those people because it's just like, again, we're just up from providing value, being
Right.
genuine. Like our team, like our core team, is what sells people into working with us too. So it's like that, but then obviously we would not run ads for what we do just because we don't.
But it's the same first principle, right? Like so, what you're illustrating so beautifully is the principle of intimacy. So if someone's not making the money that they want, the way I think about it is that they're just not intimate enough with their market.
Yeah.
Right? Like lack of money is just lack of intimacy. And sometimes it's for the founder, it's lack of intimacy with self. They're kind of disconnected from themselves.
Yeah.
Or they're disconnected from their market. Right? Or in a sales situation, they're just disconnected from the prospect.
Yeah.
And what I find is that more money is just a direct function of more intimacy. Right?
Interesting. Yeah.
And the more, like you've seen this over and over again, the more when you talk to people, when you meet people, when you are genuinely curious, when you're with them, right, as human beings, and they feel seen, they feel understood, they feel met, they naturally want to move closer. Right? And this is very different from the sort of conventional scarcity driven, sales tactic where someone can feel like this person's closing in and wants to extract something from them. And their natural response is to close.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's that polarity, and any sort of, the way I think about it, anything that's not natural, that's inorganic, requires force, and force requires energy.
And it's interesting because even with that being said too, I mean, one of the number one, and I don't like to say sales tactics too, because like I believe that there's certain ways that humans interact and converse, and like there's certain ways to extrapolate or pull information from people. But what do we find, just kind of in alignment with this, one of the best mechanisms, especially in a trust recession style market like we're in right now, is using a push-pull mechanism. Right. And the push-pull is like very much like you push someone away to then allow themselves to pull them in. Where it's like, I mean, the people are like, oh, I don't know if I need this. It's like, I actually don't know if you need this either. And I'm fully in alignment with you. So like, I mean, let's see, like, let me ask you this question. And then at the end, like, of our sales calls, a lot of times we'll even say like, cool. So, you ready to get started? They'll be like, yeah. And we're like, you don't have to. Like, we literally said, you don't have to. And they're like, no, I want to do this. Like, for me, this is for me. It's like, okay. Like, and so it's interesting. That's like to kind of build that like level of authenticity. It's like our sales reps, we train them. You do not need their money.
Right.
We do not need their money.
Right.
We have an amazing transformation in a process. And if the right person comes through, they should align themselves to it. Your job is to just be there to break down like any limiting beliefs they might have, to break down. And you probably get limiting beliefs all the times in your emails. People are like, hey man, I want to do this, but I feel like I don't have an audience. I feel like blah, 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 like whatever it is.
My answer is okay.
Yeah.
Because I had this insight a while back, actually in one of the breakouts I led in Japan. I was talking about this. Almost every entrepreneur I've met at some point in their life has lacked choice. Like they didn't have the ability to choose what they wanted. Their choice was taken away from them.
Can you give an example?
So like, let me reference this. Like, what's your number one value as an entrepreneur?
I guess just providing authentic and genuine services that actually provide people real transformations.
Yeah. So about 90% of people I ask that question, they say freedom. Right? And then I ask them, like, at what point in your life did you not feel free? Right? And for me, like, I experienced a lot of control, coercion, trauma. When I was a kid, I didn't feel like I could be fully myself and be loved for that. And be, accepted for that.
I've had we'll have a whole conversation around this.
Totally.
Yeah, I think we're wrapping up here in a minute. I got the one finger from Zach probably about 2 minutes ago now. So, but just to kind of relate to that, we'll have a conversation. But I had a big realization around that same the whole process recently. It's like, because of when you're younger, you experience traumas. Certain things will be used against you when you're younger too. And like, even if it's just out of immaturity or whatever, and you end up disconnecting that when you feel like, if I don't feel that, then I can't be loved. Right?
100%. And so all these people, all of us people, we grow up and then we decide to be entrepreneurs because we want to be free. Right? So really underneath, there is still a child in us, that version of us that didn't feel like he or she had choice.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that unless we maximize choice in business, we will never actually fully feel free. And then we'll keep chasing these shadow goals and milestones and shiny objects in an attempt to finally get that freedom. But we'll never get there.
Yeah, because until you resolve that underlying feeling of not having freedom, yeah, that makes sense.
So, one of my sort of favorite ways to construct a business architecture to scale is, what are all the places where the founder feels restricted, and how do we give them permission? You don't want to do sales calls? Don't do sales calls. You love doing sales calls? Do sales calls.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want a big team? Great. Or you want a big team? Great.
Results,
exactly.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. It's like a lot of people are like, don't take sales calls. It's like,
right.
all right, well then I'm not going to make any money.
Right.
It's like don't take sales calls, but here's an actual mechanism that you can use to do that. Yeah.
And even one more thing on that, I think everyone, when they start out, should take sales calls.
100%. Yeah. Because you need, like you said, the intimacy of your market.
You don't know shit.
Yeah.
Right. In the beginning, even when someone joins the accelerator, and if they're relatively new, I recommend that they take at least 50 calls, because that's gold. Right?
Oh yeah.
What we understand about our market,
it's your marketing message, understand
it's everything,
their desires, everything. Yeah.
And if we cycle that back into the marketing, that's where the real fun begins.
Yep.
Right. So I know we started this on the note of how do we get rid of sales calls, but even that deserves a caveat.
Yeah.
If we're trying to get rid of something because it's an against or an away from motivation, it's going to compromise the whole thing.
Yeah.
But if we're coming at it from, okay, I can do this, I can do it well, I know how to do it, there's no scarcity there.
Yeah.
But I'm looking, is it possible for me to design a system, like a business system, that has a higher order of harmony? Because what I really value in life is and for me, it's I want to spend 2 hours in the middle of the day at the gym.
Yeah.
I want to travel, 6-7 months out of the year. I want to have great conversations with people like you, where we can just jam and flow, and there's almost like a mind melding happening.
Yeah.
And can we build a business that allows us to become the most us, to actualize into the greatest version of us, to operate, in that real state of passion, purpose, play, fun, and enjoyment, also make an impact, and also be free, because that's kind of why we're in the game in the first place.
That was beautifully said, Ani. We forgot the most important thing is to make a lot of money as fast as
100%.
That's always the number one priority.
100%.
But Ani, I want to give you an opportunity here to shout yourself out. Anyone who doesn't know Ani, you should go to Japan with him at least once. It's an incredible time. But it was a pleasure having you on today, man. I want to give you a moment here to shout yourself out, anything that you're currently working on, your business itself, and any last minute words.
Thank you. This was such a fun conversation. Ani.Manian, Manian, on Instagram, YouTube, all those things. If you want to funnel hack me, go to scalewithoutsalescalls.com.
And you're probably going to sign up.
Yeah,
yeah. Just make sure you email him once you know.
Definitely email me.
Yeah. Awesome, buddy. Thanks so much for your time today, man. Genuinely an amazing conversation, as I knew it was going to be after we first met. I'm like, I got to talk to this guy in the pod. So
even the Boston-New York rivalry.
We put it aside for this one. We're going to go fight in the parking lot.
Yeah,
after
100%.
This. We're going to put on a
100%.
Red Sox and Yankees hat.
100%.
Brawl for no reason. And then, and this go home and drink beers or something. I guess that's probably what we'll do.
As we should.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for being on.
Pleasure to be here.